there, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if it is your first time here. I'm so happy to have all of you here today for my video, which is about sewing hacks. If that sounds interesting, then just keep watching. If it is your first time here, my name is Erin and I make videos about sewing. I sew garments and quilts and some bags here and there and stuff like that. Mostly lately it's been garments, but I'm feeling quilty, so I think in the next couple of weeks I'll be working on some quilts. Anyway, today is not about quilting or about garments necessarily. It is about sewing hacks. I went to a sewing social today and it just got me thinking about how, like, when you're with other sewists, you share ideas, you share experiences, you get to talk about things. And I know I've learned a ton of stuff here on YouTube, but another place that you can get information from is Reddit. I don't go on Reddit a whole lot, but it is a good place for information sometimes. If you're unfamiliar, Reddit is, I think it's technically categorized as social media, but it's basically a bunch of community boards. They're called subreddits in different categories. People get on and they talk about the topic of that subreddit. So I found a subreddit post in the sewing subreddit. I will link it below if you want to look at it. I think you can look at Reddit without having an account, and accounts are free if you do want to make an account, but I'm pretty sure you can look at this one without having an account. So like I said, I will link it below. Let's just get into these hacks. The title of the post was hacks that have become mainstays in your sewing projects. So this person, the original poster, put 2 down. 1, putting moleskin instead of a thimble. I can see that. It's kind of annoying. Moleskin's sticky. Moleskin is like a band-aid made of felt that is found at any pharmacy. It has a sticky back so it doesn't move around on the thimble. Now I have thimbles that fit my smaller fingers and my fingers don't get sweaty. Oh, that's a good point. So yeah, it's basically a thick band-aid. I've used it before to prevent blisters because you can put it on your feet on like rubbing chafing spots and help prevent blisters with it. It's not the cheapest stuff, if I remember right. So in terms of like how frequently you're using it, if you use a thimble a lot, you might not like it. Okay, their second tip was putting a needle minder on a plastic cup when hand sewing. This way I always have a place to put down my needle and a cup to put scrap thread in. No more lost needles. This person sounds like they hand sew a lot with the thimble experience and the needle minder stuff, but that is a good tip on a plastic cup. So I'm guessing they just magnetize it to the cup and then can put it in. I do like that. Okay, now moving down into the post. I have not read these yet, so there might be some blank spots of me just scrolling and reading. Okay, so the first one, it has 600 upvotes. Wow, how many people have upvoted this whole post? 651 people have upvoted. So on Reddit, you can upvote or downvote. It's like liking or disliking stuff. 600 upvotes. Okay, so this must be a good one. My dining table is a glass top. I trace patterns on it with a desk lamp turned upwards underneath. Okay. I do not have a glass table in my house, but if I did, that is a good idea, and I do not think I would have thought of it. That's really cool. Oh, and someone said storm windows work great for this, or a glass shower door. Both can be easily found on the curb, Craigslist, Facebook depths of your garage. You can also buy clear plexiglass in a big sheet. Think COVID sneeze barriers for an even lighter and less fragile option. Someone else said, I've used a patio table for this and loved it. So I like the ones that were like, oh, I already have this table in my house and it works. I don't like necessarily the idea of getting a whole separate other thing that you have to store in your house. So if you have like a glass patio table or a glass dining table, stick a lamp under it and try tracing. That's cool. Okay, I load up a few bobbins at a time so I can just swap them out when one runs out. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people do that. Maybe not. I always mean to wind more than I do end up winding, because by the time one is wound, it doesn't take that long. By the time one is wound, I just want to get back to the sewing. So I should probably wind more. This person also said, when sewing on trim, I don't cut it to length until it's sewn on. This way I don't get to the end and find myself just a wee bit short due to corners or stretch or something. Yes, I feel like you learn that one the hard way, but I feel like most people don't cut it to length until it's actually sewn. This one I do. I use my preloaded bobbins for hand sewing. I do use that. My mom taught me that, actually. She always uses the rest of her bobbin to hand sew the quilt binding down. She mostly quilts. So she'll then take the bobbin out of her machine and use it as basically like a little spool for when she's hand sewing the binding down. Using kids' purple glue sticks to secure before sewing. I mainly sew bras and it's tricky to get the hook and eyes pieces to stay put before stitching. It washes out great. I have heard that. I've never done it, but I have heard that the kids' washable glue sticks, which is the purple one, is really, really good for, I think some people even use it for quilt basting. I've heard of people using Elmer's white glue watered down a little bit for quilting. I get a little worried about it gumming up the machine, but a lot of people do it. Oh, here we go. I do this for almost all of my quilt piecing, but especially when I'm sewing long strips of fabric together. My machine is horrible about moving the layers through at slightly different speeds, no matter how much I fiddle with it or use a walking foot. When I have the seams tacked together with glue, everything lines up so much better. And, oh, there are more replies. Does anyone talk about oh, here we go. Ooh, does it not gum up your machine? That's what I would worry about. No, but you need to wait for it to fully dry before you start sewing. Okay. Good to know. If you do any of these glue tricks, you have to wait for it to fully dry before you start sewing. This person said it only takes a couple of minutes. So, cool. Okay, so a lot of people are really into the glue stick stuff. That's awesome. I might have to give that a try. Okay, next hack. Batch cutting sewing. I usually cut out 2 to 3 projects at a time. While I don't sew them at the same time, it takes a step out for future me going on to the next project. Yes. A lot of people are like, yeah, I hate cutting, so I like to do it all at once. I am the same. I have found that I really like doing a big batch cut. Someone commented and said, I did batch cutting once and I was never in the mood to make the second skirt. Piece is still in my drawer. Yes, I've done that before. I do have a dress that I batch cut, and I have something for my daughter that I batch cut. I don't think she would fit in it anymore at this point. So it works for me sometimes. I do not batch cut stuff for her anymore because she grows. Lots of people excited about batch cutting. Typically I can get 5 to 10 projects cut out in an hour. That's fast to me. Oh. She uses a projector. Maybe that's part of why it's so much faster, but dang, that's really fast. Like, to cut and get it all marked and stuff, maybe I'm just really slow. Or I'm picking very complex projects and that's why it takes so long. That feels so fast. Oh, this is a good one. I color-coded my bobbins. Yellow is for cotton thread, purple and green are for regular poly thread, red is for embroidery bottom thread. I like that because I do have cotton thread for quilting and polyester thread. That's a good idea because I'm kind of how I have my system right now is that I have a bobbin holder, the like wheels, and I keep the cotton ones on one side and the polyester on the other. But like when it comes to white, that system could fail very easily, and it's not the end of the world if it does, in my opinion, but that's a good idea. When gathering, I use dental floss that I have zigzag stitched over without sewing through the floss, then pull the dental floss to gather evenly. The thread doesn't break and you get a better gather. Once you're done sewing it in place, just pull the floss out. Someone commented this on one of my videos when I was talking about gathering, and I have not tried it, but I have heard, like, someone told me about this. Might be worth a try. The dental floss trick. I stuck a self-adhesive hook to the side of my machine so I always know where my small scissors are. I've not done this, but Peggy from Bespoke Ability Sewing recently, within the last couple of months, put some like Command brand, like Command hook, but Command brand little cups, I think, on all of her machines. And she has like little snips and little ruler, like seam gauge and some other stuff in there, if I remember right. So basically the same system, having it right there at hand, which is a good idea. For hand sewing, I use a fine tip Sharpie to mark the seam allowance on my left thumb so my stitching turns out more even. I almost said perfect, but it's hand stitching and y'all know better. That's cool. That's a good idea. I don't do that much hand sewing, but that's a really good idea. That's cool. I never would have thought of that. Never would have thought of that. I put down magnet strips on my desk to keep things in place, but at hand. My most used feet, bobbins for thread changes, strap turner, and thread snipping scissors all on a magnet strip so they don't run away on me, but I can keep them out for quick grabbing. Huh. That's pretty cool. I have a little holder that I keep by my machines that I try to remember to stick things into. I say as I stare at like my seam gauge, my snips, my seam ripper, and 2 marking tools scattered across my desk. So maybe a magnetic strip would be a good idea for me. This one makes me very happy. I don't think I've set in a sleeve the right way for 10 years since I learned attaching it flat before the side seam is way easier and looks so much more professional. Same with the shoulder seams on shirts, leave those for last. Wait, same with the shoulder seams on shirts, leave those for last. I don't know what that second part means, but I do way prefer putting a sleeve in flat. Someone did respond, so maybe they're producing it. Explaining it. The shaping of the sleeve cap makes a big difference here. A traditional high cap sleeve will settle better into a fitted armhole when set in the round. It will also feel more comfortable for the wearer. A lower cap sleeve with a looser armhole will go nicely when sewn in flat. The looser fit means that the change in seam dominance isn't as much of a factor to wearer comfort. Mass-produced clothing has moved almost exclusively to sewn in flat due to speed and skilled labor constraints. As expected, good fit becomes a casualty along the way. Okay, I can see that. I can see the difference. Interesting though. I do prefer to put sleeves in flat. Like even if there's easing or gathering or something, I prefer to do it flat. And that's the only way I have done a French seamed armscye, is by doing it flat. So, oh, and here's okay, these are not hacks. This is explaining construction. Interesting, but there's a good if you guys have time, go in and read this little bit, because then there's also someone talking about if the order in which you sew your pants matters, because there's different orders you can do them in. Interesting. I'm going down a rabbit hole of this whole side conversation. Okay, let me scroll down. I'm gonna have to go back and read that. Okay, not really hacks, but self-imposed rules. 1, wash new fabric immediately. That's a good one. 2, work on only one product at a time. That's great in theory. Absolutely does not work for me. I have a small glass jar with a metal lid, so I put a magnet inside the lid. That's my needle minder, and thread bits go into the jar until full. Then I move them to a glass ornament. Oh, that's cute. A glass ornament of all of your threads. I kind of like that. Interesting. Okay, that's kind of like the needle minder and the plastic cup one earlier. Okay, a couple more. I nailed a measuring tape to each side of my working surfaces. It's insane how much I use it for a quick size check. I could see that being a good quick reference. That's like some people keep a tape measure around their neck when they're sewing. So that makes sense. I keep my scissors on a badge reel when I'm doing handwork, no more losing them. And they posted a picture of like a little badge reel like people have for their work badges, and on the end is a little pair of scissors with a cover over them for safety. That's not a bad one. I feel like it would be kind of annoying with it being that high. I'd want to clip it somewhere else, but maybe not. I use Scotch tape to hold fabric down all the time. It's so dumb, but sometimes I'm just done pinning. I don't think I've ever heard of that, to hold it down. I don't 100% understand what they mean by hold it down, like hold it together. Okay, tape is my favorite for oddly shaped things such as letters I'm appliquing onto a blanket. Okay, so I was trying to picture how they did it for seams. Instead of pins or clips, that makes sense. For applique, that makes sense. Well, I think we have found all of the best hacks from this thread. I know there are way more hacks out there, so let me know what your favorite sewing hack is. Let me know where you learned it from, or if you came up with it by yourself. People out there have awesome ideas, and I know you guys do. You guys do too. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and hit the subscribe button on your way out if you are not already subscribed. I will see you guys on Friday for #FridaySews.